working. I have to say that every time because you never know. You never know if things are going to work or not. Oftentimes there's these updates, that happen all the time, and then the update resets all sorts of parameters on the software that you're using, and nothing works. But apparently, if there were any updates, they didn't break anything, and if there weren't, well, that's a surprise. Yeah, I took a day off on Monday. It was like a holiday, so why not? This is almost like a job for me now, right? It's like a regular activity that happens at a regular time. And doing things while during that time as well. So there. This is what I'm working on. The Apollo lunar spacecraft stack. Okay, this is a pretty cool model. It's quite large. The box doesn't fit here in this area very easily. So I'll just show you the black and white version here of an assembled model. It consists of the escape tower, which I have completed. Yay, I did something. The command module, which I will be doing last because there's just some issues with the interior of it that I need to work out. The service module, which is virtually complete, and maybe I'll even finish it today. We'll see how this goes. And then there is the lunar excursion module in its little docking structure. And after I'm done with the service module, I'm going to work on this docking structure for the LEM. It's just a bunch of big parts that need to be found. They're in the box there somewhere. I have to find them. The big parts are probably easy to find because they're very large. There's hinges that I need to find, and hopefully they are all there and not broken. And then after I finish that, because things actually do get finished on this stream, it's always kind of a shock when something actually gets done. But it does. Great. We've got ants. Great. Nice. Carpenter ant, because we live in the woods and they're out in the woods and sometimes they come in. So the service module, I'll show you the bits of that because it's I should be able to actually finish it today, and unless something goes wrong, like these little attitude control rocket nozzles break off. If they do, then their name attitude control will be appropriate because they will, having broken off, will control my attitude and turn it grumpy. Anyway, I finished those on Friday. I think they haven't fallen apart yet. They're on some sticky tack over there. And what I need to do, let me show you what I'm doing. This is the instructions for the service module. I've got this all done. I've got the interior of this completed. I got the inside of this door put together with these little tanks on this section here. These are done. This is done. This much is done here. Okay. So what needs to be finished yet is this assembly, which looks simple, doesn't it? I hope it is. I hope it works. I've test fit all of these parts before several times, and they fit. That's a good thing. So I need to get up and do what needs to be done. Yeah. Not quarter after yet. I need to waste more time on something. Who hasn't signed on yet? So I can't do the flip. Well, the order in which I'm going to do this is that this hinged door goes in here first, and it doesn't get cemented in. And then this hemi side, it covers half of it. I'm going to cement on. because it has some really nice alignment marks. There's a little tab and an indentation for alignment, and it actually holds this door in place. So I'm going to put that on and hold it in place. And then this small bit here fits in between them and fills in the gap. It will leave a gap. It leaves a seam, and there's nothing I can do about that at my skill level. What I'm not sure I will do yet is whether I will cement both of these parts in and then set it aside to, I want it to set, I want the cement to set before I then install these 4 brackets that hold the attitude control jets. And once those are done, then the service module will be done. Be a weird feeling. Kind of like when the escape tower finished, because that was a weird thing too. And I'm gonna put a paper towel down here and get out the parts. These are the parts that are going to be attached. This is the door that opens. You can see the detail there. Those little tanks got put in. This is the small bit. This is the big bit. That box is on the floor, and they get attached to this box. No, I can't put it there. This is actually the bottom of the service module. Great. I've left myself no space. This is the very bottom of it. This goes on the bottom of the service module. That's the nozzle of the service module rocket engine. I'm going to leave this in the box. This does not get cemented on. Okay, this is the bottom. It attaches here with friction. Okay, the base of the rocket nozzle fits in there, and it holds that whole this entire thing on. And I will stick that on just to show it. You can't see it because my hand's in the way. It goes on like that. Okay, and you can't really see it because it's top down. But that's the kind of production value you get here on Relaxing Painting with Dyson Dungeons. Is you get a Ring camera and a piece of cardboard and a paper towel. So there. These pieces, once they're done, will actually end up just being stored in this box because I don't want them to break later on and get dusty. And I don't have a display case for this. It's just like the submarine, which is sitting over there under a bunch of paper towels because there's no place to put it. Yeah, if I move these over here, then I can put the box up over there where it'll be very much in the way later on. There we go. You can't see what I just moved. These are the attitude control rockets. There's 4 of them, and they attach in these little, you can see one here and one there. They attach to the outside of the service module. And I need to keep these apart from each other so that the magnets don't cause an explosion of stuff. Okay, like I said, this is the bottom. I rest it on the top because it's got all this nice little prongs, and it sits flat. If I hear it, kind of flops around, right? But I'm going to assemble it this way. So this door goes here. These hinges go in that slot. Over the flanges, I guess you call them, right? And they need to go on the inside of the upper and lower bulkheads. And when they do that, then the part fits. This thing will open. Look at that, the magic door. See, that's how it's going to open. And then you'll be able to see the interior detail of the service module. But I want to leave this closed when I attach the other bits because they need to tall right now. All right, so that's how that goes. This one goes in last. Top and the bottom because the bottom doesn't have much. So you can see it lines up. There's this little pin there and this little gap here. And what will need to happen is I will need to get cement. Yeah. That's how this fits. And what I want that to do is fit on there so it doesn't come off. I mean, it holds on with friction kind of, but so what I want to do is get cement on the inside of this here and maybe a little bit on the top and bottom of these. When I push this on, okay, when I install this by lining it up, okay, and getting it underneath, what is going to happen is that it will push whatever adhesive I put on here that way. And I don't want it to bubble up and show on the top or the bottom. Okay. I want it to just be pushed that way. So I don't want to put very much on. I think I'll do it. I'll set the bottom in place. And then the top like that. And once they are there, then I can push them tight like that. But the idea is to do that without getting any kind of cement oozing up and over. And then this one goes here. Goes on pretty easily. Yay. And unfortunately, it has a gap, a seam that shows. And I talked to myself about assembling this first and filling that in and then trying to paint over it so it didn't show, and that just wasn't ever going to happen. Because I am not a master modeler. I am doing it as well as I can given the skill I have. Although I think the detail on the top and the bottom came out, I think, okay. So I'm a little bit anxious about this because I am really concerned about the cement that I use, the adhesive that I use, kind of gooing over. I could use the contact cement, okay, which allows me to actually clean it up a little bit. But the problem with that is it's very thick, and if anything's going to ooze, that is definitely going to ooze. The other thing I'm going to do is, you can see me test fitting this, is getting the edges in, okay, and then pushing it forward, is I'm just going to put the cement in the central area, okay, not around the edges, because by doing this back and forth, I'm very likely to just spread some around somehow. So I'm thinking of using the brush-on kind. This will hold better. I know this will hold better. Okay. But it's hard to get it thin, and the application is actually a little bit harder than with the brush, surprisingly. Well, I can talk about it all day and not do it. The problem with both of these is that these are painted surfaces, and it's going to dissolve the paint, melt the paint, and potentially not adhere very well. But it just needs to adhere well enough. Just need to get on with it. This is supposed to be like a contact cement itself. It dries on the surface, and then it's supposed to stick to itself. And it's very thin. I hope that thinness be a plus here. So a good thing here is that this is not going to be visible. Just find out if it actually holds. I don't know. Even if it holds just a little bit, the frictional, keep it hanging on. There's some in there. Do not want it on my fingers while I'm touching anything else. After all of this effort of getting it this far, this kind of thing happens where you go, I hope the final step of cementing this together doesn't destroy it. No idea whether that's sticking or not. I'm hoping it is. It's in place. It is. Yeah, no, not really. I guess nothing's really gripping. It's pushing down on the top and the bottom here. It's in alignment anyway. Yeah, it's holding. It's holding. Maybe it's holding enough. That's all. That's all that matters, is that it holds enough so that it doesn't just pop off. Okay, maybe I don't have a disaster yet today. That would be kind of amazing, wouldn't it? This not be a disaster. No, looks like, whoa. Yeah, it looks like I'm dropping things. I did. That was me dropping something. Yay. Okay, well, there's nothing to be done other than doing this as well. This is in place. It is where it is going to be. Uh, it's not popping off. I should put a rubber band around this to hold it tight. But I don't want to mess up the paint. I'm just going to grab it like this and hold it for a bit. No, there. Okay. Yeah, I guess I need to do this one too. Hopefully it will be okay. Yeah, you would think I wouldn't have to be silent as I just dab little bits of cement on there, but yeah, I'll give that a second to set. And I'll put it in and push it down and see if it holds. No, the problem is here at the top and the bottom. Don't really grab it. It's not making enough contact. But it's see, this one fit pretty tight. This one doesn't fit tight, and as a result, the as a result, after messing around with it, it's not going to stick. So I'm going to use use a different adhesive on this. I'm going to just let this just dry for a while, I guess. Okay, I'm going to have to let this just not do anything other than wait. I'm going to use this adhesive. I think there's enough of a gap, and if I'm careful enough getting this on, it shouldn't ooze badly. See, the problem is that there's the surfaces that have the cement on them do not form a strong contact. And so yeah, they just aren't going to hold. This one is holding well enough, as long as you don't mess with it too much. Okay, well, that didn't go as smoothly as I thought it might. Didn't go as badly as I feared it might. So there, the door will open. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'll use the contact cement. A little bit oozes out. I can usually clean it up without messing up the surface too much. This is interesting to use it. You put it on, and then if it just sets there for a while, that's just fine. This is silent running day, it seems. I have to think of something to talk about here. I don't know. Why am I being so quiet? Why am I not thinking of anything to chat about? Why is the universe as large as it is? Why did Captain Kangaroo go off the air? Was it the decision he made? Was it a decision of the studios that they decide that it just wasn't the thing for kids anymore? Do you want to be a doobie or a don't be? There are all sorts of important questions that could be answered by someone somewhere sometime. Why did Mr. Ed never speak unless he had something to say? I mean, these are all sorts of things one could ponder. I don't know why you would, but I mean, these are things you could ponder. They're probably, more interesting and less confrontational. I mean, you could controversy creating, I guess you'd call it. And some things could talk about. Anyway, stick this on and I know this will stick. Yeah, well, like most models, the parts don't fit beautifully, but they they go on. And like I said, this leaves a seam here, and there's nothing really I can do about it. A master modeler would put this together, would fill that seam in with some sort of magic compound that would maintain the surface texture of the model, okay, without it showing like the surface texture would show. But I'm not that, and I can't. So there. That's the part that's supposed to stick on. That's the part that is supposed to not come off. That wasn't the door. What was I thinking? And it opened nicely. I mean, it opened, but it wasn't supposed to. This is the one that's supposed to open. There. Now. Supposed to close. Like that. Okay, well, I mean, this is it. This is the service module. The bottom just slips on basically, and what I need to do is not play with this much more. Take that off. So what I want to do is not play with this much more, knowing that it is there. This didn't pop off. Just gentle tugging. It's not popping off. There's kind of a large seam there, but it needs to be because that's where the hinges are. The hinges work. The interior shows. The detail on the bottom and the top look okay. And what needs to be done with this then is that these 4 sets of attitude control jets need to be applied to these recesses here on the outside. Yeah, and I wish the parts would all, fit better and all that. But I think, you can tell it's a plastic model and not the real thing. But that's what it is. Anyway, I'm just going to stop playing with this. And I'm going to put it in the box over here. So I am not tempted to play with it. These need to come off without breaking off the little jets. We got some tweezers. Just going to pry them off with a toothpick. I know that they're going to stick way more than I want them to stick, because when I was assembling them, they didn't stick. And that's the way things go. There, this one's off. Yeah. I need a thing onto which I'm going to set them on here. Okay, one of them's not broken. Over there. Three are not broken. I'm going to be using this contact cement to apply them because it's a painted surface against a painted surface, and the contact points are not contacting all that well. Kind of like that last section of the service module casing. Yeah. What I need is a big open space here because the next step is to it's just a little bit stiffer. Get these up out of the way here. You'll have to imagine that it's out of the way. There we go. After break, I'm going to finish that by putting on the attitude control jets, and then the service module will be done. And then it is now time to move on to something new. And that is going to be this, not the lunar module inside it, but the container of it. What do they call it here? I think it has a name for it in the instructions. The instructions tell you that that's the very last bit. It's the adapter. Okay. This is the Lunar Excursion Module adapter. And it is consisting of a big ring, which you'll see in a bit, 4 big leaves that open up. They all fold down. They're hinged, and the LEM goes inside of it. And the thing I just made, the service module, sits on top of it. So I need to find these parts. The big parts will be easy to find because they're very big. I don't know about the hinges. I will look for the hinges, and hopefully they are in the box and not broken. The thing is, I'll then prep these things by getting rid of little burrs and whatever that are sitting on them because of the way they're attached to the trees or whatever. And hopefully there aren't a whole lot of these stupid little circles. I bet there are on the insides of these that come with molding. And if there are, you'll see them. The other thing I'm going to get out are the astronauts. There are 2 standing on the moon astronauts, and there are 3. They look like that. And there are 3 sitting inside the command module astronauts. And I'm going to get those out as well. And they need to be cemented together because the astronauts all come in halves. Front half and a back half. And they don't fit very well, and they're going to have seams and things that need to be fixed. So I need to spend some time during this stream so it doesn't end at like 11:30. So I'm going to do that. Hi, Boo. You missed the assembly of the service module. Now you're going to have to wait till later when I show it to you and I put the attitude control rockets up. But I'll be pulling out the box. The box is really big. It's going to bump into things. It's going to be annoying working on it, getting these parts. But that's just part of how this works. So when we do a flip, that's something we need to do here. There's nothing in the way. So I can flip the big one here. Yep, off screen. There we go. It looks like it's time for me to get a new work surface. It's just this one's getting messy. It's got little bits of cement on it because someone was using this with epoxy yesterday. All four sides, okay, just are messed up. Look at that. That's just got all sorts of stuff on it. So I'm going to have to invest in cutting out another sheet of cardboard from one of the many boxes that arrive at this house to throw this away so it's not in the way. I'll have to pick it up off the floor later. Yeah, I'm getting pieces. Be right back. One piece, you can look at that getting the box. On this box is a picture of a beautifully constructed by a master, professional modeler of the entire thing. That part is done. This part is almost done. Working on this adapter section here into which the LEM goes. And after I'm done with this, maybe even as I'm doing this, because I'll explain the steps in a bit, I'll work on the LEM. But these are little containers of parts that fell off the trees, which may or may not, well, they do include some of the astronauts. They may or may not include the hinges. But there's a large box that is just a mess to play with. I said these parts are easy to find because they're big and they're also messy. Let's just look at that. No, don't look at it. Don't look at it yet. Okay, there I am dropping things. Great. Yeah. Here's some sitting history. Okay, let's just put this on camera. It's just it's just going badly enough. Rooting around in here, knocking things over and stuff that you might as well enjoy it on with me not enjoying it. So I said I was going to work on the astronauts. Those are the hinges. Wow, look at yeah. I will be showing to you just how messy they are in a bit. But I'm pretty sure those are the hinges. Let me check the number on the instruction sheet. They are supposed to be a number 94. Let's see if there's a number on it. And it is 94. Okay. But if you can see them, I'm not sure. Yeah, it is a little bit chaotic today. Things went okay. We're mostly going okay so far, mostly. But you can see, look, this like flashing all the extra material there and on the edges. And of course, on the tops, there are these little these circles, these molded in circles that are there for absolutely no reason at all other than to be in the way. Fortunately, in this case, they are raised. They are raised circles, so I can just sand them down and it'll just make the surface smooth. Okay. These are the backs of the sitting astronauts. I'm going to very not carefully at all break that off right there. You can watch me bend it back and forth. And then somewhere in here are the fronts of them. Because they're not in They're not here. These remaining pieces, the stuff that's left here, is there's supposed to be enough parts here to make a lunar excursion module. There's the front of it. That's recognizable. There's the back of it. Okay. And then there's a bunch of other parts and also a command module, and that's most of it there. This is also part of the LEM. Anyway, what's left in this box is supposed to construct a lunar excursion module and a command module. So here's the back of one of the standing astronauts. We'll set that there. The thing I'm most annoyed about, though, is the interior of the command module. Okay. The interior, you're supposed to sort of see the interior just a little bit. This is where the hatch is, and there's little windows, and the hatch swings open. It's hinged, and you're supposed to be able to, look in. I'm looking in, and you can actually see a lot of the interior by looking in the hatch like that. And if you get a pen light flashlight or something, you could even shine it through one of the windows and see even more. But inside the command module are very, very complicated control panels, all sorts of buttons and switches and dials and lights and all sorts of things, right? And this is what you get. You can see like the most minuscule raised lines of detail. And there's just no instructions given about, even if it's possible to paint that, I know it's possible, maybe not for me, but for somebody who is really good at it, could get pictures of the interior of the command module and see what that's supposed to look like. But you have to have the light just at a right angle. There's like a big cathode ray tube CRT monitor up there because they didn't have flat screens then. Just switches and drawers. Okay, that goes right in front of the astronauts. That's the main panel. And you got these side ones, and those have like openings on them and things too. And all the instructions tell you is to just paint them blue, and then you don't see any of the details. So that's why I'm putting off the command module until last, because I'm trying to decide what to do about that. Because like I said, you can peer in through the hatch, and if you look at it, you can see, if you looked into it, you could rotate it and see the inside, like the three sitting down astronauts who sit in these couches. Anyway, yeah, that's what I'm going to do at last, mainly because what to do about the detail on the control panel. The LEM has a lot of little spidery parts. Those are hinged as well. The landing gear fold up so that they go inside the adapter, and then they open up so that you can land the LEM. And it, of course, has these attitude control rocket things, just like those little tiny ones I just pulled off of the sticky tack. Hi. Oh, model. Oh, let me show it to you. I'm going to show it to you on the instruction manual, not the box top. It's the Apollo space. It's the Apollo stack. The model is the escape tower, the command module, the service module, the lunar excursion module, both ascent and descent stages, and the adapter into which the lunar module sets. And I've been plugging away at this slowly. And I finished this. I finished the escape module. No, that was the challenge. Those were the space shuttles. one exploded on takeoff, and the other one burned up as it entered the atmosphere because it had a gap in the front edge of the wing, and it heated up. And yeah, that's an interesting story. No, the Apollo program, on the other hand, had, except at the very beginning, and it was on the launch pad during a test, there were no injuries or fatalities during the active part of the Apollo program. Even though Apollo 13 almost killed 3 people, that was a kind of an exciting time because something inside the service module exploded. One of the tanks ruptured, and so they were left essentially without any power or electricity for the most part, and they had to go around the moon and came back. Well, of course it's fake. I mean, that's why it's a model. Anyway, no, this isn't the one that exploded. The Apollo program didn't blow up, but the space shuttle did. The space shuttle turned out to be the most dangerous spacecraft ever created. More people died in the space shuttle program. Sorry, just it on the floor so I get it out of the way. More people died in the space shuttle program than in every country's space program combined. It was, we don't think of it that way. We think of it as being a glorious space plane kind of thing, but it was not. Okay, well, this is the fairing. This is the bottom of the adapter for the lunar excursion module. And these, if I can get them apart, are hinged on here and go all around it. They, go around it, and they fold down, hopefully. You can see that. Well, yeah, but, yeah, and they hit it too. We don't know about them all. There were some pretty early on ones too that we never heard about. But I think that this, I guess that kind of fits. I'm just test fitting these parts. But we lost 2 shuttles, and each one had like 6 or 7 people in it. And it was just really sad what happened. That something like that happened. Oh yeah, this is what I was afraid of. The when they mold these things for a reason totally unknown to me. Well, the reason I know about the space program is that the Apollo program is that I grew up with it. I was most of it started when I was like in 6th grade or so, and landed on the moon the year I graduated from high school. So that tells you where I am in comparison to everything. But yeah, I mean, I was really into it at the time, just really into the space, into the whole space program, because it was a serious thing then. We had the big space race going with the Soviets, and we needed to get to the moon before they did. Why? I don't know. Why not? It's there. It's like climbing Everest. You have to get to the moon, and we did. And we haven't been able to do it again since, which tells you that we were a whole lot better at doing some of this stuff in the 50s and 60s than we are now. We had really cool stuff in the 50s and 60s, okay? We were launching satellites for the very first time. Yeah, it actually turned out that the space program was not as advanced as we thought it was. But it was a good excuse for our politicians to, we were in a race and we had to beat them. And they couldn't really explain why, because I guess, if they got to the moon first, then they got to the moon first. But they didn't, and their program just started, they couldn't afford it. I think their technology was probably a little bit, primitive compared to ours, but still effective. I hope that's not supposed to be the foot on the boot of this astronaut. Wow, the detail on the back of the astronaut's spacesuit is really great. Okay, but the molding of it is just leaves a lot to be desired. What I was saying is, yeah, in the injection process, for some reason, they decide to put these circles, and I think there you can see them as the light hits them because they have a different reflectivity than the rest of it. And the real thing didn't have these circles. And so, unfortunately, these are indented. So I'm gonna have to try to sand them out. This is painted with kind of a flat paint, but they're just it's just really annoying that they're there, and it's almost tempting to leave them. Look. Now, in some ways, yeah, the Germans during World War II managed to figure out how to do a lot of space stuff that we couldn't. Jet engines, liquid fueled rocket. I don't know. I think these things, they're so symmetric and so ubiquitous. They're in the same places each time that I think they're there on purpose. That somehow in the mold, they have these little dimples. And maybe it's to help it release from the molds. I'm not sure. But these are pretty deep. And I'm going to give them a little bit of sanding. But what will happen as I sand these is that it will cause a depression. That might be. They might be like little radiators that they have, especially on these bigger pieces. Anyway, I'll lightly sand them and see what happens. These are the astronauts' backs and things. I think the rest of the astronaut figures are in this container. Let's find out. That's the rocket nozzle for the bottom of the descent stage of the lunar excursion module. Here's the other half of one of these standing guys. So I bought this model. There's the front half of the other standing guy. Bought the model on eBay, and it was cellophane wrapped. That was a good thing, but had been apparently violently shaken because lots of parts were broken off of the trees. And 3 sitting fronts, 3 sitting backs. There's 2 front guys. These things are really not well done. Okay. I mean, the hands are an exaggerated size, but when you put the front ends, I've tried this before, and you put the fronts and the backs together, okay, they really don't fit very well. The seam is hugely obvious. I don't know what's supposed to be going on with the boots and their feet. So part of what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to clean these up some, maybe today, maybe on Friday, and then cement them together. Okay. Maybe put on a little extra cement. maybe a little extra cement so that it oozes out a little bit and creates a ridge along the seam so that I can then sand down the seam so it doesn't show. So anyway, there's that. That's a moonwalking astronaut. I think what I'm going to try to do with the ones who are walking on the moon. No, this is interesting. So this guy, I'm not sure what this is meant to be. So this guy has the life support pack on him, right? You can see it there. The big backpack with all of the heating and cooling and oxygen and carbon dioxide removing and all this other stuff that needs to be done to keep somebody alive on the moon. That's pretty good. This one doesn't. So what's this one supposed to be doing? Yeah, the moonwalk. What's interesting though is that the moonwalk, Michael Jackson didn't get it right. The moonwalk was kind of a stiff-legged, back and forth hopping motion like that. And they didn't know how to walk on the moon. They did some training, in 1/6 gravity simulation by doing putting harnesses on them. Okay, to support most of their weight on Earth to do that. But it wasn't until they got on the moon and tried to move around that they learned how to do that kind of weird hopping motion. It was fun to watch. I think they had fun doing it. So they even put little faces on them. I'm not sure that they're personalized to look like specific astronauts. Well, this is kind of weird though, that this one figure has a backpack and can walk around on the moon, and this other one doesn't. And I'm not sure what's supposed to come of this figure because it can't be outside on the moon. Maybe it goes inside the LEM. That could be it. I think this one is supposed to just be like inside. There. I'll work on those maybe later. But the important thing is the adapter for the Lunar Excursion module. The piece I'm going to be doing next. This is a multi-step process, as all things are. So it looks really simple. And if I wasn't going to bother painting it, I could clean this up and finish it just like that. But I am going to paint it. So I'm going to clean up the parts, like get rid of this flashing. Okay, that's there, for example. I'll get the sandpaper and the files out and clean these up. See what I can do about the circles here, get the hinges ready. And then they will be primed. Yep, one is back, one is front. Glue them together, clean up the seams later. See how that goes. So I'm going to prime them. I'm going to finish this today. Probably most of what you'll be seeing today is me just filing and sanding, and then they get primed, and then each one is painted in 2 different colors. So I'll be doing a bunch of taping. The insides are painted kind of a gray-green color. So there'll be the inside of this. Oh, yeah, they're not full figures. They glue front and back. But what I was saying was that this standing up Lunar Excursion module astronaut doesn't have a backpack. And this one does. So I guess the model is supposed to be that this one stays inside the LEM, at least because it can't come out, and this one has the backpack. What I might try to do is, and I don't know if this will work or not, is that the walking on the moon one, the one with the backpack, get covered in moon dust. Yes, those are 3D printers in the background. Those are 3 PLA printers. And okay, now is the time for a Dyson Dungeons ad. Dyson Dungeons, which is, I am part of Dyson Dungeons, is not a model building show. It's a Dungeons and Dragons show. And we have dungeons that we go into from time to time. And what gets printed back there are dungeon tiles. And these are some samples of the dungeon tiles. Okay. And this stream actually started as the painting of the dungeon tiles after they were printed. So they come off the printer, black plastic, black PLA. And the way these are designed, is that there's a floor and a wall finished on both sides. The printer does a really cool job because it prints this wall vertically, so it creates all this stone detail, and I'll show you some others. And then we prime them, base paint gray, do some detail blocks, and then eventually this would be washed with a dark gray wash to make it look like worn stone. But the really cool thing is that under these plates are little ball magnets in the corners, and the ball magnets stick to each other. Art. And I know there's some dungeon tiles out there that are called magnetic, but they have just a little disc magnet in the base, and you have to put them like a cookie sheet or something. But these adhere to each other, and you can very quickly, in any different way, rearrange them to make all sorts of dungeons. We've got 3 kinds of them. Let me see if the others are, I don't know what happened to them here. Here's me knocking things over. So we have these rough stone, we have cut stone, but we also have these, sometimes you want to be in a tavern or a warehouse or something, right? So these are also printed on the 3D printers back there. And the same thing, the wall and the floor are done. And the detail comes out really cool because the wood grain on the floor, and even though it's printing vertically, it manages to get the wood grain in on the wall. And then these are primed. We base paint them kind of a tan color and then wash them in this very particular color of wash that we have found that gives it a really rich, dark oak look and fills in the wood grain. And these have the same sort of thing. All of the tiles come with little features, like we have doors that work. Okay, opening and closing doors. So, if the DM says you come up to a door, our little minifigs, we have little figures of our characters can come up to the door and open and go through. Anyway, yes, Dyson Dungeons is a Dungeons and Dragons show, and we play from time to time inside of dungeons that are made up of tiles that are 100% produced by us. And this streaming show started out as just preparing these, painting these, and putting the little magnets in the bottom, and putting the plates on after. The plates just kind of snap on. So these are really, really cool. Our DM did a lot of design work on these, and Nicole and I spent a lot of time painting them. I'm going to put these up here with the other ones. It'll be easier to find, and it'll give me more workspace over there. The Dungeons and Dragons show streams with a live chat 3 Sundays a month at 2. And you can also catch up all of the old episodes on YouTube or as a podcast even. Okay. these astronaut pieces are just getting knocked all over the place. So I'm going to take these off the tree. I usually like to cut it off a distance from the model part because it's a lot easier to file and sand that off than it is. Oh, I'm in Michigan in the U.S. So 2:00 Eastern time. You're probably like 6 hours. Most of Europe is like between 5 and 7 hours away. So it would be like 8:00, probably 8:00 your time on Sunday evenings. But the ones on YouTube you can catch anytime. Yep, we're on the Great Lake, the Great Inland Sea. So yeah, right in the east central part of the U.S. Oh, which country are you in? Really? Okay. Yeah, people. The U.S. is just really large. Okay. Oh, wow, cool. My wife's family. Oh, did you move there or are you working in Slovakia? My wife has some relatives in Slovakia. I think they were in Bratislava, but they're originally from a small town. Okay. You like it there? Is it okay? I've heard that there's some beautiful parts, that it's gorgeous countryside in some places. I haven't had a chance to visit there, though. Crash. Anybody need a ring? So these broke off here, and I just need to take the burrs off. Of course, yeah, this is lovely. So they put the attachments on the tree, right? See there's like these little ridges. Oh yeah. Oh, like some of the smaller villages and things, or is there just maybe trash piled up? We used to trash our country. Oh, okay. Like the kind of buildings they show in some of the shows here about mysteries of the abandoned and things like that. So they're all kind of abandoned buildings, and a lot of those abandoned buildings, they have no owners, and so they never get cleaned up. Yeah, so just the kind of thing that's just kind of crumbling. No statues of Lenin. Yeah, so they're just kind of crumbling, maybe covered with graffiti. That's just common all in a lot of places in the East. I think is left over things that were just abandoned, things that weren't worth rehabbing, I guess. And cutting it off here. So are you like, yeah, leftover junk nobody wants, and so it's nobody's problem. Here in the States, we have that too. I mean, it's not unique there. In Michigan, there are a fairly large number of old industrial sites you know, and old industry just dumped their stuff, just whatever, polluting whatever. The best way to get rid of it is just dump it. And so they're called brownfields now. Really know why they're called brownfields, because they're not always brown. But yeah, there are all these places, the companies that dumped all the junk either sold themselves off or sometimes just went bankrupt. That's always the easiest way here in the States to avoid something. Taking responsibility is you become bankrupt, and then it's the public's problem to somehow or other clean it up. Yeah. It is known as the Rust Belt. There are many, many very large abandoned, most of the buildings have been torn down at least, but the ground underneath them is almost always polluted because stuff just got dumped. Old cities, just, factories in a lot of places were either completely torn down and replaced by apartments with some frequency, or strip malls. Some have been rehabbed pretty nicely. And you take the old factories. I live on the west side of the state, the side on the other side of Detroit. And there's some places where there are old factories that have been turned into offices and apartments, and they look really nice because some of the buildings are really pretty. They're made out of really nice brick. I'm just chopping off the pieces here. I'll use this container. I have a container for the hinges. I can see I'm going to be spending a lot of time on these. These have little circles all over them too. Fortunately, these seem to be raised circles, so I can sand them off. Have a nice flat surface. But there's just all this flashing all around the edges. Really a mess. Really very badly done. The model I built, yeah, have you redone that? Some of my wife's, I think, cousins. Ah, nice. Yeah. If you get a brick building like that, and oftentimes the inside is made out of wood, these huge, beautiful wooden timbers that can sometimes be exposed. So you can see them after they've cleaned it up, put in the new windows. The new windows always look good. I think my wife has like a second cousin living in Bratislava. Does it really? So it really looks like 19th century warehouse kind of place where people were badly treated. I need to do something with these guys so that they don't get lost and broken. I have all sorts of boxes all over the place, but I don't have one that's the right size for these. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's one of those buildings. They didn't have very good lighting. I know the old industrial buildings didn't have very good artificial lighting, and so they had gigantic windows to let in natural light. Okay, I'm going to have to look that up. That sounds like a gorgeous building, and it was really worth saving. That's kind of neat that it was. To get out, what I'm going to do is find the box with my little tools in it. There it is. The buildings here in this city were not, there's some really nice brick buildings, but they weren't anything really spectacular. They were just kind of, four walls. Didn't have any. Sometimes there was good brickwork. People did there was a lot of money put into masonry back in the day. That's extremely difficult to replicate now. I think, well, maybe not difficult, but expensive, I guess. So, are you familiar with a little town named Porac, Porac? Yeah, masonry in the U.S. Buildings used to be made out of bricks and sometimes even decorative tiles. Okay. Yeah, it's hardly known. I mean, I think it's kind of pretty rural out in the mountains somewhere. That's where my wife's father's family was originally from. Kind of weird living in a country where, unless you're a native, and these are really a pain to fix. They have these little protuberances all around the outside. Okay, these little ridges, and of course the trees were attached to them. If they were attached in a flat spot, it would have been easy to file them off. But here I need to basically shape the plastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a lot of brick factories. I mean, well, you build them where the clay is, right? So you don't have to move the materials that far. Clay and wood. Get the clay out of the clay pits, as they call them, and the wood turns into charcoal. Bake your clay and you get bricks. I think there are a lot of brickyards also in parts of Ohio, but that's kind of in the same area. I think all through there it would have been West Virginia, probably. West Virginia, Kentucky, and parts of Ohio. If I remember correctly, out of this was done. Well, this is going to take forever because I have to be so careful. I'm finding with this model that most of the time, okay, that is the amount of time being spent on it, is spent sanding and filing and taping. And very little time is actually spent painting and assembling. Hardly any time is spent assembling. So in the town where I live now, which kind of funny, is that it started out as a really small town, and now for some reason someone decided to make it bigger. Real estate developers, right? There were maybe a half dozen really kind of neat old buildings. But then some developers bought up a lot of land and decided to turn it into a big town. And what they did was the architecture was an effort to create new buildings that looked like old abandoned brick buildings. Seriously. And so, they would have a wall where they would create what looked like it was a broken hole in the wall. And it was patched in with a different kind of brick. Yeah. So they would just, they created that. Why am I doing this off camera? I'm going to just move the camera here. What I'm doing is taking, see these little prongs here? That's where it was attached to the tree, and it needs to be filed down so that what's left is one of those. Thanks for joining in. Maybe you could become a follower. That would be great. And I am on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays almost always from about 10 until 2 with a break in between. But thanks for joining in. Please consider becoming a follower and getting onto YouTube and watching one of our Dungeons and Dragons episodes. It would be great if you could do that. Nice chatting with you. Thank you. Right. So, buttons. Here I am trying to clean these things up. 1 out of 4. Which company made this? Revell. Okay. Usually their models are pretty good, but well, that's not true. There aren't really any of these models that are really well done. Plastic injection molding is not a, let's say that the tolerances are way good to have. So if you're just joining in fairly recently, I have put together the outside. I've attached the outside of the service module to the inside. It has come out pretty much okay. Show it to you before I go on break. So that, you can see that it's real, that it really happened. And after break, I'll be attaching the okay. I'm glad to be your background noise. So after the break, which will happen in about a half an hour and last about a half an hour, I will be attaching the attitude control rockets to the outside of the service module. And once that is done, then the service module will be completed. And 2 of what I'll just say are 5, 2 of the 5 sections of the Apollo stack will be completed. And what I'm working on now, see, I've got this escape module done. I got the service module all done, except for attaching these little bits of attitude control. And what I'm working on now is the enclosure, these big chunks of things that enclose the lunar excursion module. And I'm doing this next because it's not very demanding it's not challenging in terms of the work that needs to be done, which is good because there's supposed to be some relaxation going on during this. Yeah. The Dyson Dungeons runs a Dungeons and Dragons show, which streams with a live chat most Sundays at 2 Eastern Time, U.S. Eastern Time. And you are all welcome to join in on that. And if you can't make it then, you can get all of the past episodes. There are over 100 of them now. We've been doing this quite a while on YouTube, or listen to them as a podcast. And we do a really good Dungeons and Dragons show. This stream, the painting stream, started out as the place where we painted the dungeon tiles that we use in the show. And when we don't have dungeon tiles or minifigs, I work on some models that I acquired when I retired. And I thought, well, I'm retired now. I've got nothing to do. I'm going to be bored silly. I might as well build models just like I did when I was in grade school, because that's how, you know, family dynamics and stuff. You go down and when you want to stay out of the way, you go down in the basement and build plastic models. Who can blame, you can't get into trouble doing that. So I used to do that. And the model I built just before that, it's pretty late where you are. Wow, okay. So you are oh yeah. Are you in Asia? 30 p.m. So it's like 5:30, 6:30 in most of Western Europe. So you're 5 hours further along. Well, thanks for joining in. Well, hopefully I'll let you snooze. Maybe that'll be good. If you don't have too much work to do, if you don't have too much homework, that's really, I'm just feeling here to see that there were 4 of these, and I only cleaned up 3 of them, so I'm not sure what's going on with the 4th one. There it is here. It's not very well done yet. So yeah, Dice and Dungeons and Dragons show. Watch it. It's really good. And what I'm working on here is the Apollo model. And this is where I really need the file that I'm missing. No idea where it went. I have a file that's curved on the outside. Ah, the Philippines. Cool. Well, tell all of your friends and family in the Philippines that YouTube, because YouTube is, you can watch it at any time, that they should check out this stream and also our D&D show, because we welcome people from all over the world to join us on relaxing painting and model building and Dungeons and Dragons. A little while ago, I showed off some of our dungeon tiles. I'll do that again before break. But thanks for joining in. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that you're finding this relaxing. It's probably more relaxing to listen to than it is to actually be doing this. Sometimes this for me, is not that relaxing because things go oops. I have had oops episodes where something has gone horribly wrong. It hasn't happened in a while, but occasionally people who join this stream get to hear an oops. Like, usually it takes the form of me going, oh, I really can't believe that happened. And I really need to have that convex file. I don't have it, so I need to make do with what I've got. Look for it. I bet it's down here on the workbench somewhere. Or more likely, it's probably on the floor. Probably on the floor underneath the workbench, where things sometimes roll. But why there are these mold flaws, these protrusions right in the center of where the hinges need to be flat against the surface. So it's like, if you're going to make a mess of your molding process, you might as well just do it in the worst possible way, in the worst possible place, right? I'm going to have to test fit those to see how badly this is in the way. Hard to see what I'm doing here, but the injection molding process leaves bits of plastic where you don't want it. Okay. And what I'm doing is trying to make it go away. You know, a flat surface is supposed to be a flat surface without a protrusion on it. So this is the very, very bottom of the model. The very bottom. Everything rests on here. And the these doors, these things are hinged on here, one like a cone. And the service module that I just am almost done with sets on top of that, and the lunar excursion module sets inside of it. I'm a little bit surprised that, well, there sort of is and sort of isn't a floor for this, because the LEM, the lunar excursion module, sits right down on there, but the floor is supposed to also represent the ocean into which the command module splashes down when it returns from the moon. I'll probably use it anyway as the base for this, because it needs to have some sort of base, and that'll do. Keep chipping away at the flaws in the molding. They're probably getting in the way of the parts fitting properly. Finger around the edge. It's just little bits of thin plastic that are left over from the molding process. So what I want to get these cleaned up today. Cleaned up means, filing down the rough edges and things like that, so that I can prime them. And then on Friday, after they are primed, I'll be taping them, because the inside gets painted a different color than the outside. So I'll be starting by painting the inside. So I'll be taping the outside. Okay. And then spray painting the inside, and then taking the outside tape off, and then taping the inside, and spray painting the outside after it's primed. And the inside is painted kind of a grayish green color, and the outside is painted kind of pearlescent white. More detail on this than they really need to. I think I've got it. Yeah. This is probably ready to be primed. I'm not seeing any other major problems here, other than where the hinges go. I'm going to clean up the hinges next. The hinges are these things. There's 4 of them, and they go. I guess they fit here like that. Do they go? This? That doesn't work. Guess they fit like this, but that doesn't make sense. These, let me just try one here. This is supposed to be hinged here. Junk on it. It doesn't even fit. So let me clean this up. I'm trying to figure out how these parts go together. So you'll have to excuse me while I do that, because the instruction manual is less than clear. It's just not that good. It goes like this. Slides. Okay, that's what it works. So it goes up here like this. It opens up like this, and if you push down on this, it'll snap this off. It'll break the hinge. That's not a good thing. Let's not do that. And then looks like the hinge stays at the top. And the way it works is that it slides down inside the hinge so that it sets there. Down there. I guess it does, not easily, but it slides down. That actually fits pretty well, and then it pops up and hinges down, and then some difficulty. Down and sets on like there. Okay, well, at least I see how it's supposed to, in theory, work. Getting the hinges right is going to be important. Well, this part is kind of done. These hinges are a mess. I don't know if you can see it. There's like flashing all around the edges here. It sticks out. There's the place where it was attached to the sprue, there in 2 places, and then there's little circles here, which I don't want to be there, so I have to sand those off. So, yeah, these are a mess. They're going to take a while as I carefully file this down to the surface, and then I will likely sand it with some fine-grained sandpaper to get rid of any file marks that I leave on the surface. I'm guessing that in terms of construction time, probably more, the thing that has taken most time on the stream, I think, is taping, masking things to prepare them for painting, at least so far. The thing that's taken the next most time has been sanding and filing to get rid of seams and protrusions and flaws in the mold and that kind of thing. And that's taken a good deal of time. Painting, the spray painting isn't being shown on stream because I have to do that in a ventilated place, and I don't have, this is the only camera we got here for this show, because the good stuff is used for a Dungeons and Dragons show, and that's in the studio in the other room. This is a workbench with a piece of cardboard on it. And my highly sophisticated studio consists of a leftover Ring camera, a leftover microphone, a pretty nice monitor, an okay monitor, and a small stream deck that we originally used at the very beginning of the D&D show that has been replaced by a more sophisticated one. This stream deck has been carefully modified by our dungeon master, who is Dungeon Mistress Alexis, who is also our primary technician in setting everything up. Okay. It's been specially modified so that it has easy to read, not mess upable buttons. There used to be like about 7 buttons, and it was like, push this one first, and then this one, and then this one. And after I messed up once or twice, I would have learned eventually. I can still learn things, kind of. Old dogs can learn new tricks. Anyway, she made it really simple and just had a button that said start break, end stream. If it didn't make my life easier, I probably would have been offended. I'm going to use sandpaper to take off these rings on the top. So I'm just going to use the file on the sides. These, I don't know, I want them to be, I want to see if the sandpaper works, because if it does, it'll leave the surface less scratched up. These stupid little hinges are going to take forever. It's almost time for a break. I'm going to get, I usually know when it's time for a break. Thank you for the follow. I really appreciate it. And please feel free to join in. I know the time zone is hugely different, but I run from 10 until 2 Eastern time here in Michigan. So if you need help falling asleep sometime, just tune in, and I'll talk about 1950s U.S. television. Just suddenly thinking, what I used to talk about the cartoons a lot, but some of the cartoons were actually pretty cool. They probably would even hold up. The Beanie and Cecil show, because your name reminded me of the show. Beanie was not very cleverly named, because he just wore a beanie with a propeller cap beanie. Great. So you named after your headgear. But Cecil was a seasick sea serpent, which was unfortunate. Living in the ocean, being seasick, there was a downside to that for sure. Being a pretty fun show. Right there with Tom Terrific, the greatest hero ever. The other thing about it is it was Bob Clampett was the one who created some of these, and always made sure that in the theme song that they would always make it clear that this was a Bob Clampett cartoon. Others like Hanna-Barbera, who did a lot of cartooning, were not quite so as aggressive in promoting themselves in their cartoons. But we all knew it was a Bob Clampett cartoon. Beanie Boy. Forget the captain's name. Maybe it was just the captain. But yeah, we had all these interesting cartoons done. Beanie and Cecil, George of the Jungle, Super Chicken. All very short because they were generally shown as like little bits of interludes in somebody else's show, like Captain Kangaroo or Dave Ward, who did not include his name in the theme song, did Rocky and Bullwinkle. Rocky and Bullwinkle, one of even the best, featuring Boris Badenov and Natasha Patel. Definitely not Russians during the Cold War. Definitely not. Of adventures. They brought in Gidney and Floyd from the Moon Men. With the Scrooch gun, you get scrooched. Did not want to get scrooched, no. I think basically getting scrooched froze you. You became frozen. I think it was non-lethal. I don't do marketing. I don't know. I just try to fill the time because there isn't any music playing anymore, so I have to mutter on about stuff. Oh my, what happened here? Okay, every once in a while, this stuff comes off the mold and a little bit of plastic sticks to it. And then there's a blob. And this hinge, which really doesn't show that much, but it does show, just has a blob. Why does it have a blob? I don't know. Because quality control on the injection molding of this model was just as bad, if not worse, than that on the submarine, which was really very bad. Well, it isn't worse. The submarine had unusable parts. I mean, just seriously bad, unusable parts. Which I shouldn't say because I'm trying to get rid of the extra submarine models. I had 3 of them. I had to buy 3 submarine models and already enough usable parts to make one. There are enough parts in the 2 remaining kits to make a submarine, but there are some parts, to be just clear about it, that require a good deal of work to make them look good. For example, there's a control panel that when it was injection molded, the plastic didn't fill the mold, and so it's got a dimple in it. And that would need to be filled in and sanded down. And I didn't want to do that, so I searched through the other 2 boxes and found one that was okay, and I use that instead, but the one that's left has that kind of flaw in it. Okay. It's time for a break, but I'm going to finish the exterior of these. And then when I get back from break, I want to get rid of the circles that are on the top by sanding them down with sandpaper and a little sanding block. And then I'll polish the outside of these. This is another one that's just a mess. Okay, I'm confused. It looks like this is part of... I think these protuberances, the protuberances on the sides they're not the same on each one. They're just like this one. It's just a lump. It's just a blob. When I sand them down, I want to sand the sides off too. It doesn't make sense that they would be there. So these little hinges are going to be a pain in the butt. They're going to be, even though they're kind of an invisible part in a sense of the whole model, they're not like true to the real thing. But they're very badly molded. And then I have to make a decision about the leaves that open. So let me just finish this bit here. Get the remnants of the sprue or the tree off of this, and show you what I'm dealing with in terms of cleaning up the rest of these. But, these hinges are kind of a clever design, actually. I have to admit, in that the way they're set up is that the piece folds down into it, pushes down into it, and sets on the top of this, and then you pull it up and it folds out. So if they worked, and we'll find out in the future if they work or not. The test fitting showed that they kind of work, but not very well. But they kind of work if one is very careful. These would have to be, really solidly, very, very solidly attached to the sides here. That's going to require some major adhesion. Okay, so the problem with these is that they've got these circles. Can you see them? Little circles on the top here. Fortunately, they extend above the surface, and those will be sanded off. But on the sides are these lumps. And at first, because they were lumps on all the sides, I thought, well, maybe they were intentionally there as something, but they're not. Each one is different. They sort of looked like they were maybe intentionally put there, but they're in different places, different sizes. So I'm going to sand those off. So after the break, I'll be getting back together with some sandpaper and just sanding these down. It'll take a while because it's small and hard to hold on to. These, okay, parts of it's not too hard. There's just the attachments from the sprue that need to be cleaned off, and then there's some flashing around it, all around the edges, especially the hinges, just need to be cleaned up, basically, because it's a mess. It's just messy. But the real problem is on the insides here. They've got these, you can see them because they kind of shine a different color. The circle there. There's 6 circles on each one. See, these are raised up. these can be sanded off. Some of them are some are raised up, some are dimples. So I think I'm gonna have to sand those down and hopefully not distort the surface terribly much. It's curved, so it's hard to do that. But they're a molding flaw. They're a flaw as a result of the molding process, and they're not like a structural component of the insides of these doors. So there will be that. Okay, it's time to take a break. I'm going to just leave this stuff here. Hopefully it won't wander off while I'm doing that. After break, I'm going to work on these a little bit, just for a little while, and then finish the service module. I'm not going to finish the service module right after break because people don't always come back after break. So it's something to look forward to. And the thing you're going to be looking forward to is me losing things. I know this container is important. This has got all sorts of little parts in that I need. I thought there was another one somewhere. No, maybe not. Yeah, there was another container full of parts. Okay, well, I'm going to come back and try to find that. So I shall be back in a little bit long. I'll give me 30 minutes. I'll get back and finish this. Complete the service module. We're going to complete the service module and then probably just store it in this box. Wonder where I put the other stuff. Okay, well, anyway, break time. I'll be back in a bit. Yeah, okay. Didn't know if it was coming back or not. It was dragging out. Okay, I'm going to sand these guys down as much as I can. Give them a little polish, maybe. The easiest way I found to do this is just lay the paper flat and then rub it against it. And so that's pretty boring to watch, but it seems to work. Those are being recalcitrant. So this is pretty good sandpaper, but it clogs up fast. I'm going to get rid of the circles. And then I have to get the sides. Yeah, these pieces are just, they're not well constructed. Let's just say that the quality control on this stuff was way less than perfect. I want to get the edge, get rid of the blobs and the circles, but at the same time, I don't want to mess it up. The plastic's pretty thick. There's a lot of room for a lot of room for maneuver there, I guess, to say it. But the circles are being very reluctant here. I probably should file those. I think the lesson I'm learning here is I should file these down and then polish them, because otherwise this is going to just take forever using the sandpaper. The filing creates scratches, but it goes a lot faster. Then I can just polish it on here. Yeah, that's what I'll do with the rest of these. Otherwise, I'll be here going way too long doing this nonsense and not getting around to finishing the service module. It was a long break because everything happens at once. I was on my way down, and there was a delivery, and the dogs went to... Anyway, just stuff all happened. And then the oven went off, and the phone rang, and it was just, something. Oh my, it really was a long break. I apologize for that. I didn't realize it was taking that long. Well, maybe I'll go longer. And when this is uploaded, the break can be edited out, and it'll just go longer. Because there's work I need to do on this before, because I want to prime this stuff before Friday. Okay, well, this is just going to go longer then, and we'll have to fix it in post. That's what I want to say. We'll fix that in post, which is a good way of saying things got messed up. We don't want to do it over and take care of it some other way. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go longer today because I want to get these parts ready to prime, so that on Friday I can tape them. And I can work on the astronauts as well. I guess it's going to be that kind of day. This is going to be a day. Well, I apologize to people who thought I would be back about 20 minutes ago, and I wasn't. Probably wondering, where is Relaxing Painting with Dyson Dungeons? Did they forget that a break is supposed to end? That there's supposed to be an end of the break? Maybe that's what happened. No, the before and after is much improved. Maybe what I should do, I'm just speculating, maybe I should work on getting these things cleaned up, and I can finish the service module on Friday. There's not too much to be done on it, but it would be, why not? Why not wait until Friday and then have a ta-da moment right at the beginning, kind of prime time, about 9:45 or something, have a ta-da moment and finish the service module. I think I might do that. It's so close. All I need to do is attach. Let me pick this up and drop them. It's an important thing to do. All I need to do is attach these to the sides of the module, which should take hardly any time at all, unless something goes wrong. Yeah, I have decided that that's what I'm going to do. is that rather than do that now and get things really badly out of sequence so that there's really nothing to do, like I can't do anything until this is done, those moments. A has to happen before B kind of things, but A can't happen now because of whatever. So I apologize for the long break. Things just happened during break that got in the way of the break ending. Ideally today, what would be ideal, which isn't probably going to happen because it would be ideal, is that I would also cement together the two halves of all of the astronauts so I could work on filing and sanding down their seams. But this is going to be better this way. If I don't have to rush to get the service module done today, and it would be a good thing to do on Friday. It would be a nice way to end the week. Oh, look, I'm finishing this. The sequence of events will be better. All right. So that's the story. Is the service module will be completed on Friday. There's hardly anything to be done, and that hardly anything will be done Friday then. And I will be taping this up because I will have primed it. This and these hinges and the doors to the bay. Those will all be primed, and I'll be able to get them taped for painting. I'll spend the rest of this stream, and maybe I won't go too terribly long. We'll see how things go. Getting the doors done. Show people again how that comes together. Everything takes a lot longer than it should actually, because the parts are just messy. The molding process is just not good. I don't follow. You want a post-break flip? I can do that. Let me finish this last hinge, though. Everything hinges on... No, never mind. No hinge puns or whatever. No matter how tempting it is. How much time on the submarine and now on this model I spend getting rid of circles that are all molded in for no apparent reason at all into so many of these parts. Really bad circles on these parts I'm going to be working on next. Using the sandpaper, to smooth things off and to give the surface a uniform texture. The way these work is one of these panels gets put in. I wonder if it's possible. I don't think it is. I don't think it's possible to get this in after that's cemented in. So this needs to go in, and then this needs to be cemented on. It helps to put it in, the right way. They fit better if they're not backward. So this goes in like that, and then it slides down inside the hinge and sets on like that. Okay, and the fit's pretty decent. And then it lifts up and folds down. These fit in like that, but these will have to be. See, there's no way to get that on. So this will have to be held, and that has to be cemented, and then it has to be held in place firmly. Probably I'll use like a clothespin or something so that it's held in place firmly while the cement sets. So the hinges now are ready to be primed. It's ready to be primed. These are not ready to be primed. Yeah. So I've got along the top here, this is where the service module sits. This forms a little thing. There's places where the tree was. Those tabs need to be filed off so that they're flat and even with the rest of the surface. The top gets a little bit of a filing because there's just flashing all around the edges. Thin bits of plastic from the molding process. That is in the way. Oh, yeah, well, I forgot I told you I was going to do a flip for you after I got those hinges done. Maybe I'll still do that. Really a pain. Okay, so that's the tongue. The sides are uniformly crappy. There's a little ridge there, so I'm not going to mess with that. After I get the bottoms and tops done, look at alternatives for these mold mark circles. See what I can do about them. Hinges, of course, are a major structural component and they're fragile. Why wouldn't they be? Why wouldn't they be molded in such a way that they could be easily broken? I looked for the convex file I'm missing. It's a file like this, except one side's flat and the other is convex, but I couldn't find it. It is no doubt in the pouch that used to hold these needle files, but the pouch is missing, so it's probably still in there. If I could find that, I probably could find it, but I succeeded in finding neither. Yay. It's done. Oh, this one's really a mess. Look at all the flashing along the edge there. Yeah. Well, it would be, to fill the sound in, but the filter gets rid of the sound of the file, so you can't even hear the file. I keep looking at the chat and if I'll put the flip sign up, not flipping me off, but wanting to flip, a post-break flip, and I keep getting distracted by the thing I'm actually working on. So maybe after this one, I'll remember to do the flip. These are the largest pieces of the entire model. In terms of volume, at least, when I'm done with these, I'll have finished a lot of it. In terms of actual detail, this is pretty insignificant. This is not much of it. It's just a container. Basically, this is a container for the lunar excursion module and a mount, a thing to which the service module is attached. I mean, it's structurally important, but it's not very interesting compared to some of the other stuff, like almost all of their other stuff. Anyway, I apologize for the long break again. I had no idea I was taking that much time messing around with things that I probably didn't need to be dealing with because somebody else in the house was dealing with it. It was just a distraction. Too many things happening at once. Yeah, another reason to delay the final assembly of the service module to Friday, other than, just for dramatic effect, is this filing and sanding makes a mess. And it's just as well not trying to assemble things in the midst of plastic dust. That's my decision about how this is going to go. Okay, let me do the second flip here. I'll just use this small thing. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good gripping there. I hope I get those to adhere nicely. So there's a couple more of these to do. This one is not as bad as the last one. The last one was awful. Bit of a screw that's on this is kind of large, taking a while to file off. Okay, and getting a something that happens after the break a couple of times is hand cramps. I don't know if it comes from. No, I get it while I'm painting too. After the break, sometimes I get hand cramps. Then I have to go get my hand to loosen up. I didn't have to make that sound. I really don't have to go. I just have to move my hand. But there's no music, so I gave you sound effects instead. Hand cramp flexing sound effects. That was it. I'm going to test this one. There's a lot of plastic around the edges, and I don't know if that makes a difference in its movement in the hinge or not. That does. Let me clean it up before I test it, right? It's not a fair test if there's just all sorts of other stuff all over the place. Pretend that this is attached. This goes in like this. Looks like it doesn't matter. Let's be fair. I'll pick a little bit more. And they probably check the other ones too to see if there's the same issue. The mold just they didn't line up right. This has to set in the bottom of the hinge. I'll need to test all of these before I fully assemble it to make sure that there's enough clearance for it to set. It needs to set like this while it's in the hinge. Okay. So its placement in the hinge is kind of important. Today is turning out to be a typical day of things almost, they're going okay, but just more slowly than I had hoped. That is how it always is. I should say that. I don't know why I said that really, because I would say, 70% of the time, maybe 90% of the time, things just go more slowly than I had hoped. Like I think I'll be able to accomplish this during this stream, during this session, and then I don't. I always, almost always, not always, but almost always get less done during one of these stream sessions than I think I might be able to. Like this time, I'm getting, significantly less done than I was thinking. I thought this would go more quickly, that I would have, that I would actually not only finish cleaning these up, but I'd get the astronauts cemented together so that on Friday I could work on their scenes. Part of it is that I wasted an extra 20 minutes on break that I shouldn't have, but I'm not sure that 20 minutes is the thing that's making the biggest difference here. Making the biggest difference is that I just work slowly and deliberately. That's what I'll say. Carefully. I'm being careful. Or just slow. I think it's just slow. No, the Rocky and Bullwinkle show. I have to say, if we had to look at cartoons back in the day, I would say that Rocky and Bullwinkle was the best of them. Beanie and Cecil are sometimes, I think, the weirdest. But they were pretty fun, too. Rocky and Bullwinkle, they had bad puns, but they also had, they had their own show, but like anything, like things of that time, like if you were to watch Captain Kangaroo, they'd have cartoon interludes. So it was not unusual to have cartoon interludes during one of these kids' shows. But the Rocky and Bullwinkle show was a cartoon show, but it also had cartoon interludes. So you ended up with Peabody's Improbable History, with Mr. Peabody, a dog, and his boy, Sherman. And they visited historical times in their Wayback Machine. They always went back. I suppose that's all I could do, because it was called the Wayback Machine. It wasn't the Way Forward Machine. So they went back in time to actual historical moments, and then they satirized them. The thing is, there was always the reason things turned out that where they were was because there was always a really horrible pun. That was the feature. What horrible pun will there be at the end? It even made groaning music. Okay, they were so bad. Oh, good grief. These things show, these parts show, so there's not only circles, but the part number is embossed. All the parts. It's like, no, the Apollo module did not have little 96s sticking out there. Okay, I'm going to get some sandpaper out here. I'll use Charter 600 grit. Got my nice little sanding block, piece of balsa wood. I'm going to start by removing the little part numbers, regardless of what I do with the circles. The part numbers have to come off. That just can't be there. Curved surfaces are hard to work with. The sandpaper fills quickly. The dust gets into it, and the grit, the thing that makes it work as sandpaper, just stops sanding. We had Peabody's Improbable History. We had Dudley Do-Right of the Mounties. And Snidely Whiplash. Commandant's Daughter. No, didn't ever think about this, but it was actually kind of weird. Dudley, in his Dudley fashion, thought that Nell, liked him, but it was really his horse. She liked his horse. We won't say anything more about that. Anyway, yeah, Snidely Whiplash did, typical bad guy stuff like tying her up to a railroad track, that kind of thing. We've got these carpenter ants all over the place down here. There's an infestation of them. I don't know why. I don't know where they're from. Well, they're from the outside, but I'm hoping they didn't build a nest down here somehow. You hadn't had a problem with these in the past, but now they're showing up. Okay, the whole inside of this is going to have to be sanded just to make sure that it has a consistent surface texture before it's primed. Yeah, getting rid of, I wasn't expecting to have to spend all this time getting rid of a part number. And it's right in a highly visible spot too, just above the hinge. So when this thing is opened, you'll be looking at the hinge, and there it is, a little part number, but not the part number of the Apollo, no, the part number of the model. I mean, if there were like a 18-digit serial number embossed on it, it'd probably be one thing. And you'd say, oh, well, that was just, the serial number of the model. But no, that's not what it is. I'm getting these off, and then I'm going to see what happens with the circles. See how much I can clean those up. I want to do it without, leaving big divots in the surface, which will probably happen. It happened in a couple of other parts. They're not too noticeable. They're in some of the gold painted parts on the inside of the service module, as there were these circles in very obvious places, and I sanded them out, but it left a depression. The depression in the surface of the plastic, and when it was painted that glossy gold color, it was pretty obvious. The same thing's going to happen with these circles, but the circles have to be sanded anyway because they have weird edges around them. Hopefully they'll clean up quickly. Do one at a time. That's all you can do, right? Start and keep going until one is done. And come back. Like I said, this is going to leave a textural difference, the sanding. This one is coming out pretty well. Yeah, but it leaves a textural difference on the surface, so the whole inside of this is going to have to be sanded probably multiple times. So that it doesn't big textural differences. Okay, well, so far, I should just shut up. I was going to say, so far it's going okay. Usually when I say that, then it doesn't. I'm not going to say anything about how it's going other than that it is going. I am sanding stuff, and it is getting sanded. That's what's happening. Some of these are very shallow. Some of these are raised up. If they were at least uniform in terms of how high up or how deep they were, that would be one thing. But they're just, each one is different, which tells me that they were just someone suggested that maybe it had to do with controlling the heat inside of the molding. I don't know. I don't know what the purpose of these was. But I do know that they're unsightly. And even if I don't make them go away 100%, like I can only see that at a certain angle. The Peabody's Improbable History was pretty fun. You know, I can't, of course, remember any specific episodes. But I do know that they went back in history and it sort of was historically accurate, but they added some like humorous nonsense to it, and then they finished with terrible, terrible pun. And even if you didn't know it was a terrible pun, they did terrible pun music. You know, that almost kind of thing, that the music they add to let the audience know that something funny happened, in case it wasn't really funny. You know, the music was there to let the audience know what was going on. Yeah, music does that. It's interesting. If you watch something like a movie or a TV show, especially movies, and you don't pay attention to any of the dialogue, you just say, pay attention just to the music. It's really kind of amazing how much the music is critical to letting you know what's going on. I don't know what they do about copyrighted music, because there's like these tropes in music, right? If you're not really paying attention, like you're in another room, you don't know what's going on, and you hear little snips of music, you can say, oh, I know. That's a Christmas film. That's a Christmas movie. How can you tell? Because of these little tropes of Christmas music. I can't do it, so I'm not going to try. But, you know, it's a cliche. There's cliche Christmas background music in movies. It just is. And the same thing's true of like chase scenes or a comic moment, or this is tense. How can you tell? Well, because they're playing the cliche, this is intense music. This is dramatic. This is something is going to happen. How can you tell? Because the music is telling us that something is going to happen. I wonder, I don't know, maybe composers get paid less than writers. I think that's it. Is that why a lot of movies now they have hardly any dialogue. Sometimes the movie's going on and on and on, and no one has said anything. You know, there's explosions and there's music, and there's usually lots of grunting. In a lot of movies, there's a lot of grunting and oofing. Action films, but that's how you can tell there's action. Oof, ooh, but not too terribly much talking, and a lot of music. So I'm going to just wonder out loud whether that's because the composers, you know, less expensive than the writers or something, and so you end up listening to the music and not any kind of dialogue. I need another piece of the 600 grit. There's one in here. Nope. I don't think you can hear the dogs when they bark, but that's a dog barking. That which you cannot hear is a dog barking. One of the dogs So as a watchdog, she's always watching. Just some different angles to see if I got the circles out. No, that was with some success. Like I still have to sand this all down to make it uniform. I'm going to go long today because I really want to get this sanding done. I really need to get this sanding done so that I can prime these pieces. So in a way, in sort of a way of making up for the long break, which was unintentional. It happened. The stream will go long and maybe they can fix this in post. I don't know. So that the break is shorter. I don't know if they do that. When this goes up on YouTube, whether the break gets edited out at all or whether they don't do any editing. I think that, if you were to watch this on YouTube, maybe you could like fast forward or something. I'm not sure. I really don't know. But I actually intended to take a fairly short break today because I knew that there was a good deal of work to be done to get these ready for priming, get them ready for prime time. I haven't used that joke before, have I? No. Except way too often. Some of these come off nicely and quickly, and some of these are just not cooperating. It'd be faster if I used the file on it first, but that would just create another problem. Do this with my finger. This one's really bad. Raised in the center and need to do this, but I think I need to. This is going to take way, way longer. Yeah, well, that first one seemed to go okay. If the circles on this one are this bad, this is going to take way, way longer than I am wanting. Yeah, I managed to gouge it. That was the problem with the file. Is I managed to gouge it. Be spending forever. I got impatient. I'm paying for my impatience here because now I need to sand out those scratch marks from the file because those will be just as bad as the circle was. Bad, Greg, bad decision making. That was poor, very poor decision making there. We'll go a little faster. This is finer grit, but it doesn't fill up as fast. It might work better. Yeah, I did a really dumb thing there. Dumb. Very, very dumb. So I took what was just being slow and annoying and turned it into, wow, that was really stupid. So you're seeing a classic oops here. No, I'm telling you to fast forward through the break, not the content. The break isn't much. Well, maybe in this case the break is just as good as the content. You know, it might be. Okay, I need to get some better sandpaper. I wonder where I left. Wonder where I left it. Here's a clean piece. It's 2000. I don't want that. Okay, well, I managed to take something that was taking too long, got impatient, and ended up creating such a mess that it's going to take like way longer to fix it than it would have taken if I'd left it alone. Somewhere got the box of sandpaper. Okay, well, I'm sure that I very carefully set it somewhere where it would be out of the way but easy to find. I'm very certain I did that in such a way that the out of the way somewhere part worked, but the easy to find part is definitely not working. But I've got these big gouges that I managed to put in here with the file because I got impatient and I scratched away at it. And now I've got these scratch marks. And the sandpaper I need is not to be found. Really, I'm looking all over for it. I don't know where I put it. That's really pretty annoying. I need to find it. Sorry. I can't get anywhere without it. remember buying this, but it's a different brand in a different container than the ones I've been using. But there's 600 and 1500, which is what I need. This is the 600, which is the same grid as what I've been using. I wonder if this will work better. If it does, maybe I'll use this instead. This is like emery cloth instead of paper. Okay, well, this is working pretty well. I'll keep at it with this. It's a 600 grit. And so I'm going to sand out the circles with the 600. And then I'm going to sand the entire thing with 600. And then resand the entire thing with 1500 or 2000. And the reason I'm doing that is so that the surface has a uniform texture. Well, this stuff is, I'm not to remember to buy this again. This is working actually quite well. And it doesn't, it keeps going longer than the other stuff. It's the same grit, but it cuts better. Well, once again, I apologize for the long break. A bunch of things happened. I got distracted. I really lost track of time. I had no idea it was going that long. I guess I should have known. I made myself a little lunch, something to eat, and then things happened. So having finished the lunch was about the time the break should have ended instead of having the other things happen after that. But I do need to do this today in order to get these primed because I need to tape them so that they can be spray painted over the weekend. And I can't do that. And, you know, the stepwise sort of thing is I can't put the color coat on until the primer is on. I can't prime them until I have successfully gotten rid of these circles and then sanded the entire surface to a uniform texture. Now, I'm going to get rid of the circles as much as I can. And then I'm going to go back and sand the whole inside with the same grit and then polish it with a finer grit. At least the upside of this is that the circles are on the side of the model that gets painted in a sort of matte color, not glossy. And so some of the flaws become less obvious. Now, it might be too late, but I don't want to abrade away the outside detail while I'm doing this. I'm looking at it weirdly from the side. I mean, it might look kind of odd, but I can see in the reflected light from a sort of sharp angle whether or not I have successfully gotten rid of this circle. This is being recalcitrant like the one I hit with the file. I'm not going to repeat that mistake. Wasting a huge amount of time fixing a problem I created by being impatient. Oh, yeah. Mr. Peabody's Improbable History. That was fun. Dudley Do-Right and the Mounties. That was fun. And there's some more obscure things like George of the Jungle. That had a pretty decent theme song. George of the Jungle, Friend to You and Me. Something about a great big ape. Union. You know, there was it. Netflix was it? Netflix was when Netflix was new. You used to be able to get a lot of these things on that, and you could go back and watch nostalgia TV. I mean, if you're old enough, it was nostalgia. And if you weren't old enough, it was just kind of funny old stuff. Did I go out? Did that one disappear that quickly? Some of these, just like you rub them a little bit and they're gone. Others, not so much. I'm glad I'm doing this. I mean, it looks a lot better without the circles than it does with them. I'll probably be going, it's just 2 now. I should be able to finish by 2:30 or 2:20. So essentially what is going to happen here is that the extra time, like in football, like real football, not American football, but what we call soccer football, you get extra time. So the clock doesn't stop during penalties. Okay, the clock just keeps going, but instead of having it stop and restart, just add time to the end. So that's what's happening here. Because I took too long on break, I'm going to go into extra time and finish getting rid of these circles. Some of these are just more recalcitrant, more difficult than others. This one's not. This one's being a pain. And I'm intentionally sanding quite a bit beyond it, because if I just did it right over it, I'd end up with a divot. This way, I'm hoping I end up with a gentle slope instead of a divot, so that the discontinuity in the surface is not quite so obvious. This is the third one. Yeah, so it's coming along. I mean, I've got more done now than when I started. It's always a helpful thing, is to actually make slow progress as opposed to ending up, which I have done in the past. I've done it once or twice, ending up further behind than when I started. It happened not too terribly long ago when I needed to do a redo on the interior of the door that opens on the service module. Made an effort to add some detail that really I should have done, but I did it, and it had the tiniest little flaw. And I tried to fix the flaw, and I made such a mess that I needed to repaint it. Yeah, that was not a good example of anything. I mean, this isn't a how-to show, but I try not to make it a how not to show all the time. But that was definitely a how not to show. Essentially, I fell victim to a trap I set for myself with some frequency, which is good enough, leave it alone. When it's good enough, leave it alone. I should say it's good enough, leave it alone. But then it's no, just one more little dot of paint here, or one tiny little scratch there. And I would say at least half the time that turns out to have been a mistake. That turns out to have been, I should have left it alone, because now it's worse than when I hadn't left it alone. If you know what I mean, that wasn't a very clear way of saying it. It's, by trying to make it better or fixing it, I messed it up even more than it was, or made it look worse than it was. So, yeah. Was it like last week, I guess? I was doing some extra detail where I didn't need to, but I knew if it worked, it would have looked good. But then it didn't work. So that happened here not too long ago when I said, this is taking way too long. I'll use the file. And then I used the file and created a situation that required like 3 times as much sanding to get rid of the file marks as it did if I had just kept at it with the sandpaper. So even though there have been a couple of spots like that since, I have resisted the temptation and just rubbed away at it, because, believe it or not, yes, indeed, I learned a lesson. Sometimes it's okay as it is, just leave it alone. These out fairly well, and then I'm going to go over this entire thing with the 600 grit emery cloth, and then the 1500 or 2000 grit, depending on which one I grab. Otherwise, there's just going to be spots. There's going to be spots that have a different texture than the rest. And even with the sort of eggshell gloss paint that I'm using, it'll show. So I learned that lesson too, by just, sanding parts of a part, and then that part having a different gloss, basically, than the rest. So it's fairly easy just to rub it down the entire thing. It's just important not to miss any spots. Yeah, 10 after. I might be able to just sort of make up the long break time. It'll be pretty close to that. I need to, after these are sanded, I need to like wash them down to get rid of all the plastic dust that's on them, and there will be a fair amount. I'll probably do that off camera, like after the stream. I don't know. Need to watch. Anyway, yeah, the monologue kind of suffered after. Well, the monologue wasn't very good. It hasn't been good in a while. Just, I was able to fill like entire streams just talking about the television antenna and the TV antenna industry and how that was destroyed by cable. And we never know what happened, to the people who worked in the television antenna industry. The whole design, manufacture, installation, repair, and tens of thousands of people used to work in the TV antenna industry, and then the whole industry kind of disappeared. Some of it, I suppose some of them were able to move on to the satellite dish industry, although we don't know. Where did all those people go? What happened to all the people who used to work in the vacuum tube industry? What happened to those? We complain about the loss of auto manufacturing and steel making, things like that, but there's just smaller things like vacuum tubes and TV antennas, the buggy whip, the 1960s and 1970s and 80s, really, where we went from every house everywhere had a TV antenna on its roof to, I don't know. I mean, you take them off the next time the roof is replaced, right? Okay, so this is down to the, oh, wow. There's plastic dust everywhere, isn't there? So I got this down now to I just need to rub down the entire interior of each part using the same grit as sandpaper. So it has a uniform texture. And I might get lazy and just say, I'm not going to polish it with a finer grit. I don't know. Hold it up to the light and make sure I got all of it done. It'll show a different gloss if it isn't. But I'll probably go over it with a finer grained sandpaper. So this surface is more like it was originally. Trying to just keep it like vertical here. So if there are scratch marks, they are sort of uniform. Yeah, I discovered this with a submarine in a not happy way. It was sanding out like a flaw and polishing it, but not doing the entire flat surface around it. And it just ended up showing the sanded area. And this just, it really jumped out. You could really tell. I think this is worth taking the time and effort to do this, to keep the surface gloss, I'll call it, the surface texture the same on the entire piece. And one more, and then I'll get the 1500 grit out. And just rub it down again, just to make it look a little smoother. I haven't broken anything. That's always good. I shouldn't. It's always a curse. I haven't done that yet. Oops, there it is. As I then snap off the hinge or something. Well, as usual, I managed to get a noticeable amount less done than I was expecting. I thought I would have this completed, that I would have finished the service module altogether, and would have cemented together the astronauts. I got those out specifically because I thought that I would run out of things to do and have to do that instead. But as it turned out, I got a lot less done than I thought I would. So I will recap. I was actually able to get the outside shell of the service module installed. Able to do that. I found all the pieces to the container section, the adapter that holds the lunar excursion module and attaches the service module to the Apollo stack. That's the thing I'm working on here. I got those pieces. I managed to get them prepared, which is what I'm finishing with right now. Sanding them and polishing them. And these will be ready then to be primed either later today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. I'm going to prime them, and then on Friday I will mask them so that I can paint the inside, which is what I'm sanding down here. So I can paint the inside gray-green, and then on Monday I'll unmask them and remask them so I can paint the outside white. And once those are painted, I'll actually be able to assemble this unit. The assembly is pretty simple. There's not much assembly involved. It's all this prep work that takes forever. What I will be doing after the stream is I'll be cleaning up the workbench to get rid of some of this dust. And washing these pieces. I'll use some isopropyl alcohol on it. You get the dust off of it so that I can prime them. And not be priming over dust. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to get extra time today because I took too long on the break because I got distracted after I ate something and lost track of the time. And that was that. Okay, these I think these will be okay. I'm going to do one more thing before I end. Okay, these need to be primed, right? And when I spray them, if I spray them, they are tiny little pieces, and the spray will make them fly all over the place. Okay, this stuff is better than the other stuff. I have to remember that and buy more of this stuff. Especially after I use up the other stuff. Okay, so I've got this piece of cardboard here that I have used in the past, this double-sided tape that I used to hold things onto it. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to get 4 little pieces of double-sided tape. And each piece will hold one of those hinge brackets. I could put these on the other side that's already been painted, but I didn't. So there, it's going to be this way. And I will need nail. You need to get the covering of the double, the other side off. And the way these, they just go on like that. And then they stick. Yay. And then I can paint them and then take them off and put them back on again because they get primed, but they also get painted the base color. In this case, it is going to be the gray-green. They go on the inside. The insides of these things are painted gray-green, and so these are on the inside, so they'll be painted gray-green. Now I'm just doing this to show you that I'm doing something. Okay, well, it was a long break. Things got ragged after the break. Something went wrong. It got corrected. I have made a mess of the work surface, a very significant mess. But yeah, and these are really filthy. So I got some cleaning up to do here. But in this box is the surface module. There, that's the very bottom. That goes on here like this. It's on like that. It attaches by friction. When it's completed, I will actually attach that and show it to you. But in the meantime, there's this, and the parts are adhering, and it opens up. There's a door there. It opens up, and you can see the detail on the inside of the service module, which is, it came out okay. I think it came out kind of like definitely B quality work. And even the outside looks kind of okay. The detail on the bottom and the detail on the top, I think, looks fine. So I'm going to leave this in the box. Actually, I'm going to close the box minimize dust and dirt. Tape it shut. Try to remember what these pieces are. Hope nobody else just grabs the box and tosses it around somewhere, so that all the pieces that are now nicely assembled and inside the box get screwed up. I don't want that to happen. Oh, yeah, and then these need to be attached. And these need to not break. Need to not get dirty. Here. That was the wrong one. Let me get a clean one. I am putting some paper towel down at the bottom of this so that it, doesn't get scratched up. Very carefully setting these in. Very carefully dropping them in, and then covering them up with another piece of paper towel. Waiting Friday for the epic conclusion. On Friday, there will be the epic conclusion to the service module. I'm putting these parts over here out of the way. And now I am going to conclude the stream and do the cleaning up. Do the cleaning up just on my own time. Well, this whole stream has been on my time, so that was really kind of nonsensical, wasn't it? But I'm going to do the cleaning up off camera. Oh, that's what I really meant to say, is I'm going to do the cleaning up off camera. And so in order to do that, I have to turn the camera off. So I'm going to say thanks to everybody who put up with today, because it required a fair amount of putting up with. And I will be back on Friday, more or less 10, for the epic conclusion of the service module. It will actually be done on that day. It actually totally will. And the continued preparation of the adapter for the lunar excursion module, and what will also serve as the base for the setting onto of the service module. Yeah, I better stop. Well, I can. Better stop while nothing bad has happened yet, and put this stuff down somewhere and say thanks again. Be sure, if you possibly can, to catch the Dungeons and Dragons show, Dice and Dungeons. Catch it on YouTube. Catch it as a podcast. It's really fun. You will enjoy it, I guarantee. Thanks to those who became a follower today. I really appreciate it. If you go onto YouTube, you can become a sponsor. And if you really like what you see, we have a Patreon. Patreon.com/diceanddungeons. And you can go there, become a patron, get our improv warm-up sessions, have access to our Dungeon Masters preparation notes for each session. All those sorts of cool things. Yeah. See you Friday.